All right, let's get personal. Today, we're talking all about the science of, well, you. What makes you tick? Where does your personality actually come from? And, this is the big one, is the person you are today the person you have to be tomorrow?
So let's just start with the main question that drives this whole thing. Who are you, really? And is that something that's just fixed? Or is there real room for us to grow and change? Psychologists have been chasing these answers for over a century, so let's dive into what they've discovered.
Okay, first things first. We got to be on the same page. What even is personality? Well, according to the American Psychological Association, it's all about those enduring patterns, the consistent ways we think, feel, and act. You can kind of think of it as the personal blueprint that makes you you.
And that whole blueprint idea immediately brings up the age-old question, right? Was that blueprint drawn up the day you were born, totally locked in by your genetics? Or is it something that gets sketched out and revised over and over again by your life experiences? In other words, nature or nurture?
To really get the modern answer, we actually have to take a step back and look at the original map makers. Let's see how the classic thinkers first tried to chart out this incredible journey of becoming you.
The whole mission to understand personality, it really exploded in the 20th century with these guys, these absolute heavy hitters. It all started with Freud's revolutionary and, kind of weird ideas. And then you had thinkers like Erikson, Piaget, and Kohlberg who followed. Each one of them built on, and let's be honest, often challenged the ideas that came before them. It's a fascinating story.
Now, each of these thinkers was looking at a different piece of the puzzle, but they all had this one big idea in common, that our personalities develop in a sequence of predictable stages. So Freud was focused on childhood, Erikson stretched that out across our entire lives, Piaget looked at how our thinking changes as we grow, and Kohlberg, he really zoomed in on our moral compass.
And, these stage theories were a huge deal. An absolute game changer, really. They laid the groundwork for basically everything that came next. But look, science never stands still, right? And what we know now is that the real story is, well, it's a lot messier and way more interesting than just a simple series of steps.
So that brings us to today. What is the modern take on all this? Well, it's not about picking a side anymore. It's not nature or nurture. It's about understanding how they work together in this really intricate lifelong dance.
Let's start with the nature piece of the puzzle. The research here, especially from all these massive studies on twins, has given us this one kind of startling number, 50%. That means that about half of the differences we see in personality from one person to the next can be traced right back to their genes. But flip that around. That means a full 50% is not genetically determined.
And the evidence for this is honestly pretty wild. Identical twins, the ones who share 100% of their DNA, are way more similar in personality than fraternal twins. But get this. This is the real kicker. This holds true even when those identical twins are raised in completely different families, in totally different environments. That's a powerful case for a built-in genetic blueprint.
So what about that other 50%? This is where things get really, really interesting. You'd think, right, that the home you grew up in, the shared environment, would be the biggest factor. But surprisingly, it's not. Psychologists have found that your non-shared environment, your unique group of friends, your specific hobbies, the personal wins and losses that only you experienced, that stuff has a much, much bigger impact on shaping who you are than the family home you shared with your siblings.
So here's the big takeaway. The thing you really need to remember. It was never a fight. It's not nature versus nurture. It's a partnership. Your genes, they provide the starting point, the outline. But it's your unique life experiences that interact with that genetic blueprint to shape the person you ultimately become. It's a collaboration.
Okay, so we've talked about how personality develops. But what is it exactly? Like, how do scientists actually talk about it and measure it? Well, that brings us to what's pretty much the gold standard today, the Big Five.
The easy way to remember the traits is with the acronym OCEAN. That's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Now, the key insight here is that these are not personality types, they're spectrums. They're more like sliders or dials. So you're not just an introvert or an extrovert. You fall somewhere on a scale, and it's the unique combination of where you land on all 5 of these scales that creates your personal profile.
And I really want to stress this point. This isn't about slapping a label on you and saying, that's it, that's who you are. Not at all. The Big Five is a tool. It's a language, really, to help you understand your own tendencies, to get some insight into why you react to the world the way you do. It's all about self-awareness.
And all of this, it brings us right back to where we started. Now that we know a bit about where personality comes from and how we measure it, we can finally really tackle that huge question. Can you actually change?
Let's just cut to the chase. Is that genetic blueprint you started with set in stone once you hit adulthood? Is the person you are right now, today, the person you will always be?
And you know what? The answer we have now, after decades and decades of research, is a big, loud, empowering no. While our core traits tend to be pretty stable, our personality is not fixed. It can, and it does, evolve throughout our lives. In fact, a lot of research shows that the biggest shifts happen between the ages of 20 and 40.
And look, this isn't just some hopeful, feel-good idea. It's backed up by professionals in the field. As CBT therapist Ludovica Colella says, we have the ability to change our patterns in response to our experiences. Personal growth isn't just a self-help slogan. It's a real psychological process.
So what can you actually do about it? If you want to nudge your own personality, how do you even start? Well, the research points to a pretty simple two-step process. It all begins with self-awareness, really truly understanding your own traits. And from there, it's about taking small, consistent, daily actions that line up with the person you'd like to become. It's not about a sudden revolution. It's about a gradual evolution.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final question to think about. We spend so much time thinking about the parts of ourselves we want to change or fix. But just for a second, let's flip that around. What part of your unique personality, your own personal blueprint, are you most proud of?